Today on Top of the Market, we had the pleasure of having Ben Cooper on the show. Ben's an old friend of mine from our school days, and he tells us the story of how he goes from being a super fan of the Vancouver Canucks to Olympic gold medalist watching the golden goal get scored by Sidney Crosby. It's a pretty amazing story. It stops in Vancouver Canucks, Florida Panthers along the way, and he's currently assistant coach for the Salzburg Red Bull hockey team in Austria. So it was a really great conversation, and we were really excited to have him on, and I hope you enjoy the show. So welcome everybody back to On Top of the Market with Andrerw Carros. I'm super pumped to have my guest Ben Cooper with me. Ben and I have known each other a very long time. We went to high school together here in Vancouver. But I'm going to tell you the story of when I saw Ben soon after high school. So after we graduated, we didn't really spend too much time together. I think he went to university. We went to different universities. And I was watching the Olympics like everybody else. And I was watching the gold medal game with our friend Jürgen, who's actually a mutual friend of ours. And we had our families over. And of course, the golden goal was scored at the Olympics and by Sidney Crosby. And I looked at the television, and who was on the ice hugging Sidney Crosby but my friend Ben Cooper? And I looked at the TV and I said, oh my God, that's Ben Cooper. And then both Jürgen and I were super shocked. And we didn't know. We did know that you had an experience with Hockey Canada, but I actually didn't know that you were on that team. So I just want to start by saying, first of all, congratulations. It's amazing that you won a gold medal in the Olympics. But also, like, what was that experience like? Like, how do you end up on a team of superstars, Hall of Famers, amazing coaches? Mm-hmm. How did you get there? And what was it like?
Well,
and thank you for joining us. First of all, I wanted to stop there, all the niceties and all that sort of stuff.
Lots to cover there. It was an amazing experience. Kind of surreal. Didn't not only because of the team and the players and the who was on that team, but I grew up 10 minutes from where it was taking place.
Right, of course.
So to be in my hometown. Living in the athletes village near where I grew up and being with all these superstars was just, it didn't seem real. Still a little strange to think about. But, I'd been around a few teams at that point, World Championships and World Juniors and stuff over the previous couple of years. So I was pretty immersed in the hockey world. So, it wasn't too overwhelming to be around those players. It was just like, I'm part of the team, they're on the team, and let's get the job done.
Yeah, and you'd been working with Hockey Canada for a while at that point, right? So just to kind of take a step back, what Ben's position was for that team was he was the video coach for the Olympic gold medal winning team for Canada in 2010 here in Vancouver is what we were just talking about. I think all of us with those Olympics in Vancouver, it all felt like it was supposed to end that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the most amazing kind of moment, I think, in Canadian history. Yeah. I guess there's people who would probably argue that there's some other bigger moments, but for us, it was incredible. And then to see you on the ice hugging Sidney Crosby is the image I remember. And the thought that I had being the video coach, I'm like, Ben must have given him the advice. Like that must have been what happened. He said, get it out front to Sidney Crosby, put it in the net, right? Is that what happened? Can you take credit for the goal?
Absolutely not. None whatsoever.
No.
Actually, my friend was in the stands and he took a photo of me right after we'd taken the team photo on the ice celebrating. Sidney had come over to me on the ice and he kind of leaned in to ask me something, and my friend took a photo of that moment, and he was actually asking me, hey, when we get back into the room, can you show me the goal on video? Because he blacked out. He had no idea how he scored the goal. Like,
no way.
It seems strange because it's a pretty obvious goal. You watch it on video, you're like, yeah, it's a nice pass from McGinley, clean shot through the legs of Miller. Wasn't, a tip or a rebound, but he blacked out. The moment was so big, it happened so quickly.
Gloves thrown in the air.
He literally had no idea how he scored the goal.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to see it.
Must have, like you still said to me just a second ago, but you're like, it's still surreal that you were even there. Mm-hmm. It's cool to hear that like Sidney Crosby, the guy who scored the goal, came over to you and basically said, this is surreal. Like, did that actually just happen? Yeah. You guys must have been sweating too, because didn't Americans score late in the game and then it went to overtime, right?
Yeah,
so
Zach Parise scored the tying goal and we're like, oh no, but I remember being in the room in between the third period in overtime, and it was like the most calm place you could imagine. Everybody was relaxed. I think Scott Niedermeyer, the captain, was, or I think
he was the captain. Yeah.
He's probably sitting in a stall like this.
Yeah.
Just leaning back.
Yeah.
Joe Thornton was sitting there, just being the most positive, relaxed guy, saying a few things here and there. Coach comes in, says a couple things, and it was like, all right, just another game, all business, let's get it done.
Yeah.
So there was no panic, there was no stress.
Well, I guess those guys have all been there before, hey?
They've all won, and they've all been in big moments before. So, but yeah, it was the perfect ending. Great Olympics, great experience for for hockey, for sports, for Canada, for the city, and it couldn't have
ended those Olympics any better. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was an amazing ending, perfect. The goal, the way it was scored, the player that scored it, the scenario, Canada, US, gold medal game, overtime, like it just doesn't get. It's like, it was scripted perfectly, and for me, it was the most exhausting 2 weeks of my life. So more relief than anything.
Yeah.
At that time, and I was more tired than I've ever been at that moment. So
yeah.
Worth it. One more day. I don't know if I could have done it.
Yeah, well, you didn't have to go one more day. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So what is the experience like for the players at the Olympics? I mean, you got these high end NHL players. Everybody's kind of celebrity. Are you guys all in the village together still? You said you were living in the Olympic Village.
Yeah.
What was the situation there? Were you rooming with somebody, or like how does that work?
Yeah, we were all in the athletes' village. The whole team was there. They all wanted to be there. I'm sure if the players said, no, we want to be at a 5-star hotel, they could have been. But they didn't want to be. I think that Olympics and the other Olympics they've been a part of, I think the NHL players have always asked and said, no, we want to be in the village. Well, I think Team USA has done hotels before, but like the Canadian Olympic hockey team has always wanted to be a part of that experience, be there with all the other athletes from all the other sports. And, so I was, we had like 2 floors in the Canada building, and which are all now condos. And I was rooming with Ken Hitchcock. We had a suite, so we had one, like what is now a multi-million dollar condo,
right,
with an amazing view.
We've probably sold quite a few of those.
So in that condo was Mike Babcock. He had his own room. Lindy Ruff and Jacques Lemaire shared a little room, and myself and Ken Hitchcock shared a little room. We had little single beds, 1 pillow. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then we had a big work room in there. No kitchen, no functioning kitchen. It was all boarded up. Just had a big table set up in a workroom and a whole bunch of Canada paraphernalia on the walls, and it was just we'd roll out of bed at 7 and just start working right away.
And do you guys? I mean, you said it was the most exhausting 2 weeks of your life. So did you get to enjoy any of the other parts of the Olympics? Or
I did. Yeah, I mean, I remember Steve Eiserman saying at one point, he said, "It's the Olympics. You gotta have fun."
Yeah.
But there wasn't really a lot of time for me. I was super busy from the moment I woke up in the morning, all day, every day. I think I had 1 2-hour window the whole Olympics where I could actually just walk around the city or go wherever, go to a tent or meet some friends or a pavilion or whatever, just 2 hours. So I walked around for a little bit.
At least you didn't get lost.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the good news.
I knew where I was going. But other than that, no, it was just village, in our condo, at the rink, and that was my life. But I did go out at night a couple times to see friends, went to a few bars, and we'd be out late and then get up on 3 or 4 hours of sleep. So it was partly self-inflicted that I was so tired. But like I said, it's the Olympics. You got to have some fun. But the job was to work and to get the job done, and so I did that.
If Steve Eiserman tells you to go have some fun, then you got to go have some fun, right? I mean, that's kind of a rule.
Yeah. I'm like, okay,
fair enough. What does I guess with being a video coach, you're obviously, all of your prep is kind of before the game. So at least the good news is you got to enjoy the game. Is that true? I mean, like when the game starts, you're still in a room in the back?
I'm still in a room. I got multiple computers set up. I'm basically coding or tagging the game with a software that allows us to break down and tag the game so that you can easily access any aspect of play within a split second, in the intermission or after the game, and you want to see all the face-offs in the neutral zone that we won, or all the forechecks or power play breakouts or whatever. You can just pull that up quickly and show it and go through them one by one, or all the scoring chances. That's usually what Mike Babcock wants.
Just getting data to them as soon as possible.
Yeah,
basically.
data and video right away, and feedback during the game on the radio, and some feedback to the players during the intermission. And but yeah, you're right. Most of the work is done before and after.
So you've had a pretty phenomenal career, in my opinion, based on, kind of knowing somebody through high school and kind of getting to know each other. I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you were both pretty average people in high school. Sure. I mean, we weren't necessarily full on standouts or anything like that. You got this opportunity to be around these incredible people, which obviously helps your development and moving forward and so on and so forth. But how did you get to that spot? Like, how does Ben Cooper, super fan, I remember, that's one thing I remember very clearly about you, is you were an intense hockey fan. We both share passion, I think, is something that we both have inside of ourselves. And how does a young guy getting out of university end up in the opportunity? I could go through the list of things that you have done, but ending up as a gold medalist in the Olympics, I think is incredibly, the story I know at least, Ben, is incredibly inspiring. I've told my son, because it's like, put your mind to a dream and you can achieve it, is kind of how I look at you. And I think it's awesome. So maybe you can share with us kind of, how do you build up to something where you end up on a team like that?
Probably a combination of timing, luck, a couple people that helped along the way, hard work, hours, all the standard stuff. But so I was working I'll go back. I had worked a little bit for the Canucks when I was in my early 20s in ticket sales and media relations and stuff like that for a couple of years, and then I moved to Toronto. I actually worked for the Toronto Blue Jays in baseball and sales as well. And then I was in medical sales for a few years. While I was doing that, the Toronto Maple Leafs farm team was the St. John's Maple Leafs in Newfoundland.
Right.
And they moved to Toronto to become the Toronto Marlies. So there's a new franchise in Toronto. And I had a friend who was kind of a mentor at that time. His mom and my mom were best friends in high school here in Vancouver. And so he was a few years older, and he was always in hockey. He worked for the Canucks and then the Leafs. And he was a video coach for the Leafs and then moved into communications. And now he's like his name's Reed Mitchell.
Okay.
He went to McGee High School and grew up in Kerrisdale.
Yeah, well, right in our stomping ground, but I don't know Reed, but that's
so
great.
right in our stomping ground. But anyway, he was working for the Leafs. So when they moved to Toronto, the farm team, at that time there weren't a lot of video coaches in the American Hockey League.
And what year has this been? Because
2005.
2005.
Yeah.
I mean, technology too has changed drastically since then as well, which made video coaching probably a little harder than it is. No, sorry, I shouldn't say harder. That's not true. Just a little bit more complicated, maybe. Or
you can do way more.
You can do way more now. Yeah.
So he was the video coach probably for the Leafs for Pat Quinn, probably 02, 03, 04. He had done the World Cup in 04, I think it was. He had done the Olympics in 06, I think. And so anyway, he was doing that job. That wasn't his long-term goal, but he was doing that job, and I think he was working with VHS tapes. He was doing it early 2000s.
Yeah, of course.
So when I started, it was maybe a year or two out from VHS, and it was now digital. And anyway, so to make a long story short, I had always bugged him over the years. If there's anything that opens up that you think I might be able to help with in hockey with the Leafs, because I was living there, let me know. So he calls me up and says, hey, we need this part-time video coach for the Toronto Marlies. Pays nothing. But it's, you need a little computer knowledge. Yeah. Little computer knowledge, little video knowledge, and hockey knowledge. So I was like, well, I think I can fake that at least.
Fake it till you make it.
So, and the head coach was Paul Maurice. He'd been fired from Carolina, now hired in the American League. And so I interviewed. He was like, okay, go meet with Mike Penny, first of all, who was the GM. He used to work for the Canucks. And then met with him. And then he's like, okay, you seem like a good guy, a good fit maybe. Go meet with Paul. So I met with Paul. And then he's like, okay, you seem like a good fit. And then I did that. I did that job part-time for 3 years while I had a full-time job in sales.
Right.
And
You know, I'm just going to cut you for a sec, but one of the things that I tell new realtors, I mean, just to kind of relate this back to real estate a little bit, is I tell new realtors all the time that first opportunity that you get, just grab it.
Yeah.
You said to me something really, really important there. You're like, it didn't matter what I got paid. I was given a dream job. So you might call that luck because you knew Reed or Reed introduced you to the right people.
Right.
But really at the end of the day, I would say that it's the willingness to work hard for nothing to follow a dream. Right.
Sure.
And so you get put in this position with the Toronto Marlies now. You meet Paul Maurice, who's a really well-known head coach, even at that time, even though he'd taken a step back. Right.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Yeah. So it was actually Paul Maurice and Dallas Eakins.
Oh, really?
That was his first coaching job. He was an assistant coach.
Yeah.
So it was Paul, Dallas, a guy named Joe Patterson, and myself were the coaches. And so I learned on the job and just didn't say much, just listened a lot, put in the hours, worked all the game nights. I didn't go on the road, so I worked game nights, did whatever they wanted basically, and just listened and learned.
Yeah.
And then I think after the first year, so now we're in 2006, Hockey Canada got all this money from, it was called Own the Podium, if you remember that.
Right.
Yeah, so all these sporting bodies got all this money.
Yeah, they wanted to make us great again. Didn't we lose at the 92? There was a year we lost or something, or that was when they didn't put Gretzky in to do the.
Yeah, they didn't do well. Yeah, so Own the Podium. Well, that was 98. But
that was 98. Okay.
06 in turn, we I think fourth or.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically, but that's why the Own the Podium came up. Is
And
it's like we got to make Canada great again, right?
And it's on home soil. So, anyway, Hockey Canada typically had a part-time guy for the Olympics. They would just add a guy, for the team for a couple months or whatever. And then through Own the Podium, they decided to hire a full-time national team's video coach for Hockey Canada. So after my first year of doing this job part-time, still didn't know anything really. I applied for that job because it was posted. It was a new position. Applied for it, interviewed, didn't get it. A guy named Jamie Pringle got it. And then, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just go back to the drawing board. So I kept doing 2 more years. By the third year, we were a good team and we were in the playoffs. So I went on the road with him in the playoffs. So while I'm had this full-time sales job in medical sales, I took, I think, a week of vacation time to go on the road in the first round of the playoffs. And then we kept advancing through the playoffs. So I didn't have any vacation time left. So my job at the time was territory sales. So I worked from home and managed accounts and checked into the office once a week. So, as long as I got my work done and hit my numbers, I wasn't bothered too much. So I just went on the road and didn't tell anyone.
Are you okay announcing that now? Okay.
If the guy named Bruce Marison is listening to this, he probably doesn't know, but he was my boss at the time. Anyway, so I think I was in San Antonio, and I was like, man, I hope the guy who gets his cell phone bills doesn't check my roaming charges.
Busted. Yeah.
And anyway, I went on the road. We ended up, I think we went to San Antonio one round, beat them. Syracuse, we beat them. There was one game, I think, that went into triple overtime, and my hard drive crashed after the game. And so I lost the entire game. So I had to rewatch 6 periods of hockey, re-code the game after the game. So after that game, I did that all through the night, and then got 20 minutes of sleep on the trainer's table, and then the rest of the coaches rolled in that next morning.
Yeah.
Just pulled an all-nighter. So I was doing that kind of stuff, crazy stuff like that. And then, we went to the conference finals against Chicago. And actually, the assistant coach then was Jim Hughes, who's the father of Jack and Quinn Hughes.
Oh, really?
So I met Jack
oh,
and
there's
Quinn Hughes
interesting.
when they were little boys.
Oh, that's funny.
When they're hanging around the rink.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that was my 3 years there. And then that job, Jamie Pringle, who had got the job over me for Hockey Canada, he had worked World Juniors with Brent Sutter. And Brent Sutter, was it Brent Sutter? No, it was Pete DeBoer. Pete DeBoer got the head coach job in Florida, so he hired him to go be his video coach in Florida.
Yeah.
So that job opened up again. Hockey Canada remembered me. They said, hey, do you want to interview again? I said, sure. And this time I got the job. So that was 2008.
Awesome.
So then, moved from Toronto to Calgary for that full-time position with Hockey Canada, and took a huge pay cut, and the rest is history.
Again, taking the pay cut to follow the dream, right? I mean, this is why this is a story I love, is because it's like somebody who was incredibly passionate and really went after it and just didn't say no to anything. I'm sure that sales job really didn't feel that important compared to the opportunities that you're getting. Again, sorry to your boss there. I'm not trying to get you in any sort of trouble, but that's just the nature of these things. Now, you've also like name drop like so many coaches that are in the NHL right now. So it's no surprise that you've kind of continued up the ranks here and how you got there. Hockey Canada, you were dealing with the juniors as well, right? And so through junior hockey, you must have met some incredible players at a young age. Hey? Like, is there somebody that just like stood out to you that maybe is like as a junior was just like blew you out of the water? Like couldn't believe it, attitude, skill, whatever.
Yeah, there's lots. They're pretty. The ones that go on to become great players usually are pretty mature from a young age. So one of the first teams in that, I think the second major tournament I did was the 2009 World Juniors in Ottawa, where we won gold. And that team had John Tavares, PK Subban, Ryan Ellis, Peter Angelo, Jordan Eberle. Oh God, there were so many good players in that team. I can't remember them all.
I remember that team. Now that you're calling them out, I can sort of like I can picture it.
So a lot of really good kids, very mature, incredible at hockey, obviously. And then Pat Quinn was the head coach.
Yeah.
Dave Cameron was the assistant coach. Willie Desjardins was the assistant coach. Guy Boucher was the assistant coach. So all guys.
Yeah.
There's 4 NHL head coaches at one time on that staff.
That's crazy. And the juniors for the juniors.
Yeah. So like through that Hockey Canada, I did under 18s, under 20s, men's world championships, Olympics. I did some women's. I did some sledge hockey. So I worked with, I think I counted at one point how many NHL coaches I'd worked with, and it was like 30 or 40 or something.
I was going to say, I was just looking at the list from the Olympics, the ones that you're talking about now. I also know the future that you did. You've worked for the Vancouver Canucks, which is cool. Because when I saw you got the job with the Vancouver Canucks, I was like, oh my God, he did it. It wasn't even the gold medal. It was like Ben Cooper, the super fan, is what I remember. Now, I'm just going to point something out. I was watching Hockey Night in Canada a couple of nights ago. Montreal Canadiens are playing the Vegas Knights. And who brings you up but Ron McLean on Hockey Night in Canada, which I think is super funny and shows a picture of you and him talking when you were a teenager. What were they talking about, though? I think I missed the beginning of it. I heard your name and I went, oh my God. I turned around and was like, they're talking about Ben.
So what would happen? So I communicate with Elliot Friedman once in a while and Kevin Bieksa too.
Right.
And I just, Vegas, I was watching the game. Vegas has scored 2 goals off face-offs. So I just mentioned to Elliot, said, hey, Pete, I worked with Pete DeBoer once, and he is one of those few coaches that has in his pre-scout meetings throughout the game day. So usually teams have a 5-on-5 meeting, a power play meeting, a penalty kill meeting. He actually has a face-off meeting as well. So probably would go in the morning of a game day, you might do your power play, penalty kill, and a face-off meeting in the morning, and then you go home, you have your morning skate, you have a little meal, you go home, have a nap, come back to the rink 2 or 3 hours before the game, and then another 5-on-5 meeting. So most teams would just like include some face-offs in their 5-on-5 meeting, but Pete actually has a separate, and Bob Bugner, who I worked with in Florida, did the same thing because he worked with Pete and got the. So anyway, face-off meeting, it helps. You're very prepared on face-offs. You always have a plan. You know what the other teams are going to try and do. So they scored 2 goals, and I think it was maybe the same period. So I just mentioned that to Elliot. I was like, hey, Pete prepares on face-offs really well because they have a face-off meeting. And so
he brought it up.
Yeah, but I didn't know he was going to bring up me and that I.
But how did they get? They got the footage as well.
I was giving him a little tidbit about, they love those little pieces of information. So he starts talking about me, and then Kevin Bieksa, who I know, who doesn't let anyone off the hook, so he's roasted me. And then Ron McLean, who I knew when I was a super fan kid, as you mentioned, he brought me up, so it was pretty funny.
I remember that day that you got on it was the 94 Stanley Cup playoff run. You were a super fan. You were they interviewed you. I remember it was a big thing because a lot of us were obviously watching. And then didn't Don Cherry make some comment because they talked about it in the overtime? He's like, Ben Cooper, why are we talking about this Ben Cooper kid or something? And I just remember that being the best quote of all time for a young kid. You know?
Actually, what he said was, so Ron said it was 3-3. So he interviewed me before the game. I had my face painted tinfoil Stanley Cup jersey, And Superfan, as you mentioned, he asked my prediction for the score. I said 4-3 in overtime. This is Game 5.
Dallas, right?
Western Conference Finals against the Canucks.
But it was Dallas they were playing, correct?
No.
Oh, it was Toronto.
Right? Greg Adams overtime.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So if we win that game...
I don't know why I'm testing you, Ben.
We're up 3-1 in the series, and if the Canucks win that game, going to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
So, anyway, interviewed by Ron. He asked me the score, say 4-3 in overtime. So it's 3-3 going into overtime. Ron and Don are on again, and Ron tries to talk about me again. How about that kid? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
He, if they score, he's predicted the score, and Don Cherry goes, "Who the hell cares about Benji Cooper?" So I have that quote. Who the hell cares about Benji Cooper? And Bieksa saying, "Cool name drop, Elliot." So those are my two proudest Hockey Night in Canada moments, getting made fun of.
You know what? It just shows who you know, Ben. It just shows you who you know. That's an incredibly cool story. I've told these stories, like I said, to my son, who's a pretty passionate kid himself and loves sports, and I just love the idea of like following your dreams and getting to where you are and so on and so forth. But now you're in this coaching mecca. Like I don't like. There's probably not too many people who have a resume that includes so many Hall of Famers as part of their colleagues, right? Yeah. I again looking at the list. So you've started a new website and a podcast, correct? And it's called what? The Coaches Site. Coaches Site. Yeah. So do you want to kind of lead us into this a little bit and let us know what it's all about?
Yeah. So I actually didn't start it. It was a guy named Aaron Wilbur. He just wanted to start a hockey coaches conference, and just bring together coaches from BC initially. So it's started about 10 years ago. Just got about 120 coaches in a room. Had it was a 2-day conference. Have a bunch of presenters who were all coaches, and some NHL, American League, Western Hockey League, stuff like that. Some on-ice stuff as well. So 2-day conference, and then I presented the first year and the third year, I think, and then I came on as a partner in the fourth year. And so now I've been with him for about 7 years.
And who's the site sort of geared to? Other aspiring coaches?
It's all for coaches.
Yeah.
It's a resource for coaches. There's it's a subscription-based website now. So what we did, and this is all Aaron, to his credit, he saw a little bit of the future, and he hired a production company to film every speaker that we've ever had. So we've got 10 years of speakers, amazing,
Look at the list that you could get to.
Coaches,
hey, Mike Babcock, do you mind coming on and having a conversation? Exactly. Or Barry Trotz?
Yeah. That's why he brought me on,
because you know these people.
And so my job was to get presenters. That was my job with the company. So we filmed every speaker, and then 5 years in, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we started the subscription site. So now it's like $11 a month, and you can just go on, and there's over 300 hours of content, of presentations on systems and tactics, and
it's all hockey based, I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a silly question,
practice drills, sports psych, strength and conditioning, goaltending, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we've got I don't know, maybe 1,500 subscribers.
If you were a
podcast called Glass and Out,
Glass and Out, that's a great name.
So yeah, for that. So.
Yeah, I think that the future is in video and in these podcasts and being able to get your word out there and so on and so forth. The reason I was asking if it was just hockey is that I kind of liken my role now at Angle and Volkers as more of a coach than a manager, and so we probably have a lot of similarities. It may not be diagrams to how you do it, but we're dealing with different personalities. We're trying to get the most out of people. We're trying to make sure that we are organized and kind of on top of things, right? So what are some, like, I guess if you were to give hints to coaches in general, not necessarily just hockey, but what are the things that you've learned from some of these mentors that you work with? Like, I mean, what did Babcock teach you? I mean, what did Hitchcock teach you? I mean, these are crazy life lessons. Like, is there stuff that you could share to me that would help me run this office, Yeah,
first of all, I think patience, because I was a video coach for 13 years or something, 12, 13 years before, with a little bit of like assistant coach mixed in and here and there, a couple spots, and then I finally became a head coach. But like a video coach doesn't have much of a voice. Like you're an extension of the coaching staff. You're helping them. You're giving them feedback. You're keeping them organized. You're doing all their video prep work, analysis behind the scenes. Like just you're not like presenting or dealing with player issues or talking to the players in the room a lot until I was more experienced anyway. So you don't have a voice. You're not really a leadership guy. So it was a tough transition to go from that to like, okay, I want to be an assistant coach and then I want to be a head coach. Like it takes a long time. And I remember getting impatient a couple times, like, I want to get an opportunity because I would apply a couple jobs, head coach here, assistant coach there, whatever, because I wanted to be on the bench and have more of a voice. And, we didn't get an opportunity. And eventually, like, I think it was Don Hay who,
I know Don Hay, Giants.
Yeah.
And Kamloops. Yeah.
Kamloops Blazers and stuff. He said to me, you just got to put in your time. It's like so it took a long time. After 5 years of being a video coach, I thought, I had all the answers and I could do it right away. Like I can take this knowledge that I have and just do it. But looking back, I had to still put in a lot more time, learn a lot, listen a lot. And then all those coaches, I wouldn't say, I think, you wanted to ask me who my mentor was. I couldn't tell you who one mentor would be. I have a couple favorites, but like, I had so many things I would pick up from all these great coaches, and just like write them down or just put them in my head. Like, I like that. I like how he does that. I like how he does that. I don't like that.
That feels comfortable to me.
Yeah. I
right?
wouldn't do that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That fits my personality or whatever. And I just collected them. And then I thought I kept thinking along the way, when I was a head coach, I would do it that way. I would do it that way. I wasn't trying to impose my opinions along the way. I was just like collecting it.
Yeah, well, if you could be the communal pieces of the people that you've worked with, then you're going to be in a phenomenal situation, right?
Yeah. So I just learned, listened, collected thoughts and opinions, and then once I got my opportunity, I had a lot of knowledge and experience from great people.
Amazing.
And and then it made it my own. I made it. It wasn't exactly the way he did it, or exactly how it was my own words and using my own personality. Because players or employees, they don't like when you are phony or when you're trying to fake, or you're trying to copy someone else. So if I'd like try to be like Mike Babcock or whatever, talk like him and do everything like him, people are like, he's just trying to be like that guy. So I wanted to make it my own. So that's kind of
be authentic.
Be authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
But put in the hours, put in the time. You're probably not ready when you think you are. Just patience.
I do so much training at this office for realtors, and they get frustrated because they want to be ultra successful right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to put in your time. You got to learn from people. You got to be mentored. You got to offer your services, not necessarily to homeowners, but to other realtors, so that they can give you the experience you need. And you got to be a sponge, right? You got to soak this stuff in. And so this is what I mean is there's so many similarities when you're in any sort of position of leadership, trying to teach people. But most leaders, they come up through hard work, and then they meet the right people. And you definitely have to take advantage of the people you met, but those people aren't going to give you any time if you're not being yourself. Right? They got to like the person that you are, so that they give you the information that you need. Right? And so I think that's the key philosophy. But so let's talk about your career a little bit here, because it's kind of it's pretty exciting what you've done. You were a video coach for Vancouver, correct? And then you were an assistant coach in Florida. Correct? Then you got honored by our school at that point. Remember that? That was really cool. I got to be at the ceremony for you being honored by our school, which I thought was pretty phenomenal. Or high school, I should say. And then you went on from there to be head coach in Herring for the Blue Fox, right? Herning Blue Fox, Denmark. That must have been really cool to like hit your spot. Like I know it's in Europe, but that's part of the plan, right? I mean, you got to take your time, but it must have been awesome for you to be the guy behind the bench.
It was so fun. I loved it. Because I'd been an assistant coach a couple times. Then I'd been a head coach for at a hockey academy 1 year.
Yeah, that's right.
And being a head coach for a pro hockey team with paying fans in the stands was fun.
Yeah. Greater accomplishment, gold medal or head coach? Because
I don't know, like
different
because the gold medal, like I'm a tiny piece of that.
Yeah.
Or as a head coach, it's like obviously the players do the work, but it's shaped by you. It's your systems, your culture that you want to have. Every day is you getting up in front of the room and analyzing the previous game or giving today's instructions or one-on-one meetings with players or all that stuff. So, it was a great experience. It was a great country. It was a good league. It was a good club. Very rich hockey history in that town. Yeah. People are like, Denmark, really? Like, what is that, semi-pro or amateur? Or like, what is
You're like, no, this is serious business.
Big time sponsors. And they want to win. They had won the most championships in that league and in that town, small town, but 5 NHL players had come from that town.
Oh, really?
Freddie Anderson, the Leafs goalie.
Okay, yeah.
One of the Leafs goalies.
Yeah.
Oliver Bjorkstrand out of Columbus. Nick Jensen, who was a Canucks.
Yeah, I was going to say, I recognize that name, yeah.
Hometown.
Yeah.
And his dad was my assistant coach.
Really?
And Franz Nielsen on Detroit. So they had
all from Denmark.
All from that town.
All from that one town. Yeah, forget. Yeah. Denmark's not that big, though, is it?
It's a small country. Yeah. It's a small town. So it was kind of cool to go to a place like that.
Doing an adjustment from living, like being a head coach to start with, but then also being in a country, foreign language, foreign place, Europe. Like, how do you adjust to that? Like, what's the trick? Is that just because you're a laid back guy and you can kind of figure this out?
Yeah,
but
I kind of like. I've always wanted to work in Europe. I love the lifestyle and wanted to coach there. And somebody said it once, like Denmark is like Europe light. Everyone speaks English. So there's no language barrier whatsoever.
Right. Okay.
It's a very efficient country. It's clean. Like there's no like I saw no petty crime. I saw no homeless people. I saw like you get paid to go to university there.
Really?
It's not free. You get paid to go.
No way.
So it's like a very high functioning society. So it was pretty. And the other thing about coaching in Europe as an import for players and coaches is that they give you an apartment, they give you a car, they pay for all your bills, they pay your tax.
Brilliant.
So it's just like show up with your bags and your dog in my case.
Yeah, Maggie, right? Maggie?
Yeah, Maggie.
Yeah.
So that was easy. But coaching is hard. Winning is hard.
Yeah. What is the hardest part of coaching, Ben?
I don't know. Everything.
You don't know? I would say, I mean,
there's a T-shirt I saw, like, you know how you get targeted ads or whatever?
Yeah.
From what you say or whatever you're But there's a targeted ad that keeps coming up. It's like, being a head coach is like it says on the T-shirt, being a head coach is like riding a bike. Except the bike's on fire. You're on fire. Everything's on fire. So, there's always something. You're trying to balance the process and then
the people
at the ups and downs of winning and losing, because there's a tendency to react to every loss, every win, get high, get low, deal with sponsors, general manager, board members, unhappy players, whatever. There's always stuff to deal with.
Is media a problem there? Like if they're a big team?
There was like two newspaper guys kind of thing that they were nice, so they're
they were okay.
No issue there. But it was the team wanted to win. They hadn't won since 2012, and they won the most in the league's history. So
up to then,
desperate to win,
right?
Desperate, and so there was high expectations. Even though it's just small little town and small little country, it was still when you're in that place in those moments, you can feel the need to win and want, and I want to win too, and we all, of
course.
So, but it's not easy. People think you just put together the best players and you win. It's not that easy.
No, it's about, I yelled out people in the middle of like trying to almost answer your question for you. So I apologize for that. But for me, it's people. Like when you're talking about coaching, I think like trying to get the most out of people and recognizing what's important to them. We want to encourage people to be authentic. Just like you said, you need to be to try to get ahead, but you got to really figure out who that person is and then how to get the best out of them. Right. And I can imagine when you're dealing with, young players or whether it be veterans or anybody who's been around for a long time, trying to really mesh that all together to me would seem like the hardest part, but I maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Oh no, it's extremely difficult. You're trying to balance, like I said, the winning, the results with the process, and the process is probably the more important part. And you also have to push them extremely hard, make them uncomfortable, and challenge them every day, but also keep them in a good, positive energetic frame of mind where they're happy. I like to have an environment where they're happy to come to work. They love being there. It's fun. It's not a grueling, although it is grueling. It's not grueling. You know, you come to the rink and you're like, I love being here kind of thing. That's the kind of environment I wanted. So kind of shaped it that way and empowered the leaders. I said, I don't want to be the guy yelling, or I don't want to be the guy always telling me what to do. It's got to come from you guys, the veterans, the leaders, telling the young guys, you guys are an extension of me, so you're trying to empower them.
Mentorship.
Mentorship. Yeah. And so, young players, you know, have, like I had a couple of 18-year-olds, and then my captain was 40. So, big difference. There's a lot of dynamics in there.
Yeah, dynamics of a 40-year-old. I mean, it's almost the same age as you as well,
exactly.
right? Do you bring? I follow your Instagram, obviously, and so you take Maggie everywhere.
Yeah. My dog.
Do you think Maggie helps create a better environment for everybody, like a therapy dog almost, right?
100%. She is after a loss or whatever, even when I go home by myself to the apartment after a game, just to see her there. She doesn't care, win or lose. Your kids or whatever, young kids, you go home if you're a parent. But she'd come to the rink every day. Everybody would love to see her. She's very laid back, friendly dog. And in fact, after every practice, so we'd have hard practices. I pushed them pretty hard. Yeah. They'd be in the room, they'd be sitting in their stall, and I'd bring Maggie into the room. I'd sit her at the front of the room. I would always buy a bag of like little treats, little dog treats. And I'd go around to each player and say, good job today, and hand them a dog treat. Everyone around the room, I'd give one to every player, and they'd sit there, and then I'd go, okay, Maggie, go ahead, and then she'd go
one by one
to go one by one, sit, shake a paw, get the treat, and the players just loved it. They just smile on their faces. They're exhausted from practice.
Yeah, it takes their mind off of it.
Yeah, it takes their mind off. But they're happy. They love to see her. And,
and that's why people have therapy dogs. I mean, that's not to say that that's the only reason, but that's why they do it. So.
What's next? Because I mean, I know, but there's an exciting announcement that you're...
Sure. So at the end of the year, this year, we had I was there in Denmark for 2 years, and the first year we had a really good year. We finished second place. I think we struggled out of the gate because everything was new for them, but then I think we had the best record in the league from November to the end of the season and finished second, and had a bunch of really good win streaks, and we were healthy. We were playing really well, and then COVID hit. And we finished the regular season, played the last regular season game against the first place team. It was on national TV. We beat them 10-1.
Whoa!
And we were just on a high, thinking we're going in the playoffs. And here we go. And then playoffs were canceled. Everyone went home, shut down, done. So that was my first year as a pro head coach.
Oh, that sucks. You're on the way.
So going into the next season, we had high expectations, and people are coming out and saying we're the favorites, and we had a couple big signings, and it was one of those years where we had multiple injuries, like key players, leading scorer breaking his ankle right before playoffs, captain tore his elbow, missed 80% of the season, lots of injuries, suspensions, COVID. Our whole team got COVID.
Sounds like the
Christmas.
Canucks.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, really, they went through almost the exact same thing. High of the year before, and then kind of nothing could go right.
Totally. Goaltending was struggling, and nothing seemed to go right. We couldn't really get in a roll. We still had a winning record and finished 5th place, but we lost in the first round, and I got fired.
I think that's something. If you're going to be a coach, you got to be used to the idea that you can get fired at any time. I mean, that's the key, right?
Absolutely. And I was like, wow. That's a pretty savage move after this year. Really? I thought I was doing a good, because the previous year everybody's praising you, patting you on the back. GM's telling you, the captain told him that he's the best coach you've ever played for, and you tied.
It's all still true, Ben. Don't worry about
being
that.
The best coach in the league and all this, and then the next year you're the worst coach in the league.
Yeah, isn't that is sports though? I mean, generally,
so that's why you just trying not to get too high or too low.
So, but you are now moving on.
Long story short.
Short.
I got hired by the Salzburg Red Bull team in the Austrian league.
Awesome.
As an assistant coach there, and that's
Salzburg, Austria.
Yeah, so significantly higher league,
I assume a Red Bull club is a good club to be working for.
Yeah, it's one of the crown jewels of European hockey. There, They have tons of money and tons of resources. They have an academy program. They own several teams. They own the Munich team in the German league. They an Alps League team. They own this Salzburg team in the Austrian League. So good chance to win because they have good resources and good players every year.
And I just got to assume that your dream's not over, I look at it as an outsider going, oh my God, he's achieved all of this and he's obviously done. But I would assume that right now you're like on your way to wanting to get back to the NHL, or are you loving Europe, or are you not sure? Who knows?
I'm not sure. I just want to keep getting better and keep moving forward and winning where I go. Wherever I go, leave the jersey in a better place to steal an All Blacks legacy words. Wherever I go, just leave that team in a better place than before I got there. So, and then whether it's NHL or Europe, if I had an entirely European career from here on in, then that'd be great too.
Awesome. You like it over there, hey?
I like it over there. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I remember the interview with the reporter in Herning in Denmark after I got fired, kind of a wrap up interview. And he asked me this, you got fired. Is this the end of the road for you? I was like, what? And I kind of laughed. I was like, what? Really? This is a tiny bump on the road for me. Hopefully. I said, hopefully I get fired a bunch more times. That means I have a long career. So
that's right. Well, listen, with the list of people that you've kind of rubbed shoulders with and are peers with now and colleagues with, you got to imagine that opportunity is abounding. Yeah. Your phone's probably full of names of people that you can reach out to at any time. You've dropped off Steve Yzerman and all these other guys that are in pretty high level positions in the NHL. So I'd imagine that your opportunities are still far coming up in the future here, is what I guess. I wanted to give you one chance to, you've got a charity ride that's coming up. Oh, yeah. You're doing a ride for cystic fibrosis. Is that correct? Yep. Up to Whistler? Yep. And you want to tell us anything else? Yeah, give us a quick 1, 2, 3 on that so we can put it in the link and let people maybe give you a donation.
Awesome. Yeah, so one of my best friends, his second daughter was born with cystic fibrosis 9 years ago. And we were like, what's that? Yeah. And he when the doctors told him, he was like, what's that? And anyway, it's as we all learned, it was the most common fatal genetic disease in Canada. And it's horrible. You are constantly in and out of hospitals on drugs and therapy all the time, short lifespan, have trouble with lungs and breathing and digestion. And so his little girl, Lucy, who's now 9, so she's dealing with that as well as a lot of Canadians. So we just
you're riding for Lucy.
To do this ride 9 years ago. We were like, what can we do to help our friend? Yeah. And a bunch of us found this charity ride, Gear Up for CF, Gear Up for Cystic Fibrosis, that was already existing. So we just joined up and we just done it every year as a group of friends. And it used to be a 2-day ride from White Rock to Manning Park. And now because of COVID, it's been sort of a virtual event. So we do our own thing. So last year we did the Triple Crown, which was
the three mountains,
the 3 mountain Grouse, Cypress, and Seymour. Gosh, brutal. Never doing that again.
Instead, you're going to Whistler.
So Vancouver to Whistler. I'm not a very good rider. I'm okay. But whatever. It's a struggle. It's a suffer fest for me.
Well, I mean, isn't that the whole point? Isn't it?
Yeah. We always remind ourselves this sucks, but it sucks way more to have CF. So,
it's not Lucy's struggle. Lucy's got a bigger struggle, right? So, well, we'd be happy to give you a contribution and a donation on behalf of the company. Thank you very much for coming on to the show. I'm just I've always been in awe of your story. We've been in contact. We haven't necessarily seen each other all the time, but I always love connecting with you. I love hearing your stories. I think you're a great success story, and I don't think your story's over, which is even the best part. So please keep in touch. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We really do appreciate it, and good luck with your ride. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you for watching On Top of the Market. Remember to subscribe and turn those notifications on. You can like below and leave a comment and let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the future. Cheers.